50 years ago, magic was discovered in our world, though discovered may be putting it lightly. In a single moment, magic erupted forth from the sea, and as a wave rippled throughout the land, the world as we knew it was changed forever. As the firsts began to teach, more and more people began to wield a power not known, thought uncontrollable. For a moment, there was peace in the awe. Not soon after, that peace was broken. Wars spread throughout the land as rival kingdoms sought to use this new power for their own. Devastation reigned, and yet salvation was near. Just as fast as the wars had begun, were they all ended. The firsts, using magic like no others, ended the fighting and enforced a peace. Soon enough, this peace was final. Since those wars, magic has been studied in great academies across Belcanis, Borean, Kenshire, and Naverin. Now we stand at the precipice of discovery. What could the future hold? How will these forces change the fate of Venisoth? This is the premise to a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I am running, or rather, a series of several possible campaigns. While seeming to be some pretty intense exposition, this form of world building works wonders for getting a group of people interested in a game or a world. You tell them some details, yet place within them things that would need further digging to understand. Things that could cause people to ask questions, such as, what are the firsts? Or were these kingdoms and why did they start fighting? These questions can lead the party into your world, but first you kind of need a world to lead them into. Hello, I am Ian, also known as the Loremaster. This is the first in a series of videos detailing not only how to do world building, but also an inside look into the creation of my Dungeons & Dragons world of Venisoth. Today's episode is simple in concept, but one of the hardest things to execute: starting your world. When it comes to building a world, there are a lot of avenues one can pursue. I'm going to outline 3 of the ones I have used in the past and how they can be used together to build the world further. The 3 types I'll be discussing are 1. Cosmology style, 2. Cultural style, and 3. Direct or immediate style. The cosmology style is the most straightforward and most potentially maddening style of world building. It is the hands-on, I need a world, I'll build a world style, where we start world building by straight up building our world. In this style, we literally start from the beginning. How did the world come about? Was it a god who formed it, or several? Was it formed by nature, through forces of magic, by a powerful wizard from another plane of existence? Or is it all just the dream of a child? In this style, we deal with the biggest questions of the world first, rather than later. As an example, let's look at Venisoth. In the universe where the planet Venisoth exists, all worlds were created by the entity known as Audue, the prime eternal of creation. How this occurred, however, is not what you may be thinking. Audue, cursed with imperfection and seeking order in all things, ripped itself apart to destroy the disorder within itself. In the action of ripping a prime entity of the cosmos, Audue exploded, and that explosion created the universe. It was a chaotic place that needed order, and the newly perfect Outway did not take long in creating servants, the Eternals, to order the galaxies. Whether or not Venisoth was created this way is up to debate in the universe, as the Eternals did not know of its creation. As evident, this approach of world-building is very far away from the action of the campaign. What happens in-game has extremely little to do with the cosmology of the world. However, this is one way to begin. Now, with a world and far-reaching lore created, you could begin the process of detailing and creating more information that would slowly trickle down into the actual campaign environment. A big step down from a cosmology is a culture. One style of world building is to focus first on the cultures you want in the world. Cultures give a world its flavor, and will oftentimes be one of the first things a player will want to know about in a place they would be visiting. Thus, building a world around cultures is oftentimes a wonderful tool. The cultural style focuses on who the party will interact with, where they will go, and what sort of things they will see. Compared to the cosmology style, it is more focused on the world itself, rather than where the world fits in the universe. In this style, we start with simple questions. Who lives on the world? What do they look like? What do they do? How do they interact with others? We ask this question, all of them, again and again until you are satisfied with the number, variety, or quality of cultures created. Again, let us use Venisoth as an example. One player expressed interest in playing a Khajiit-like character. Now, not wishing to literally plop the Khajiit from Elder Scrolls into the game world, I decided to take my own spin on the catfolk culture. I created the Panter, a race of cat people who live all across the lands in different tribes. In their history, they lived in forests, mountains, and jungles of the land far from any of the, at the time, primitive human tribes. There they hunted, and there they built their cities. Each tribe was led by one appointed to the position. This appointment happened by way of council during a great astrological event, such as an eclipse. During this event, the new leader was chosen and the former leader stepped down. This was the way of the Panter for hundreds of years. Every 50 Panter years, which are measured by the path of the stars across the sky, one Panter year roughly equaling about 15 months, all the tribes from across the continent met for a kind of festival, celebrating the event of the last age, which was the time between each festival. This was their structure. Eventually, the Panter became a druidic society, though actual magic was not yet a reality. They would work with forest sprites to use pseudo-magical abilities, such as healing, through purrs. The Panter's interactions with others started when the Botanier, a race of large tree-like people, invaded the Panter's forest. Even after the Panter won, and the Botanier, some 500 years later, returned in peace, they were still cautious and untrusting of them. Panter began trade with humanity about 300 years before the discovery of magic, and have maintained a simple peace between them ever since. As is evident, creating a culture can sometimes still be a bit too far back in time to directly affect the characters. However, it does allow us to set up conflicts between some characters further on, as a Panter-Botaniera interaction may be able to help reflect the uneasy nature of the people's relationship. Overall, the cultural style of world-building sets up a direct history of the world and gives the player something to latch onto that is deeper than their immediate surroundings. A final large step down from a culture is a place. The final style of world building that we'll look into is the immediate style, where we focus on the immediate area and people that the players will interact with. This is the smallest scale of world building, and yet is no easier than the others. Compared to the cosmology or cultural styles, the immediate style deals with one place at a time. In this style, we work with very small things, like a town or village, the people in the village, and the surrounding area. This style will answer the question, who am I talking to, and where am I? Questions the players will undeniably have. As with the others, we'll use an example from Venisoth. Elwood was the first village that the party ever visited in my main campaign. It's a small village, known for its production of honey. It is situated in the remote Elwood province of the Kingdom of Verity, though the people who live in the village do not care much for the politics of the kingdom. Within the province is a portion of the Great Eastern Forest, where the decrepit Fort Bullsmith lies in ruin, as well as the Shard, a solitary mountain, or more accurately, a large rock, and the Sinkhole, to the south. Within the village proper, there are several notable people, including Boris Menin, a prominent merchant and known fence of stolen goods, his daughter, Mivra, a young lady wishing for a life of adventure. The inn is handled by one Mr. Dax, who is known for brewing the best honeyed mead in all the lands, or at least in the Elwood. Leon Husk and his brother Gary Husk run the smithy and own a small apiary a ways out of town. Finally, the cleric, a half-elf woman named Lenora Greenstaff, leads the people of Elwood in worship in the chapel of Vordunen, eternal of prosperity and justice. Using a direct or immediate method of world building, we can create the actual play area that the party needs to play the game. Each character that we create adds to the illusion of a fully realized world, and each detail that we add can make it seem as though the world created itself. With a direct world building method, we make the world that can be interacted with, the real world that the players really need. Now, knowing the three methods that I use in world building, we can clearly see that each has its merits and its issues. In reality, each of these world building styles is needed to create a truly realized world. We may be able to get away with just one for a while, but we all know that it won't be done until each level is accounted for. In ways, these styles are more like layers. Each one adds something to the others that was missing, and each one can make the world a better place to play. Thank you, and have a wonderful world-building week.